You've had the experience. Don't pretend you haven't. Someone's name surfaces in your mind 2 seconds before your phone lights up with their call. You're thinking of someone you haven't spoken to in months, and by the end of the day, there's an email from them. Or you're in the middle of a conversation and you already know what the other person is about to say. Not because it's predictable, but because you felt it arrive before the words did. Most of us have learned to dismiss those moments as coincidence. That's what we were taught. But what if they're not coincidence? What if they're data? Welcome to Module 4. This module is about telepathy, one of the oldest, most contested, and, frankly, most misunderstood questions in the study of consciousness. And I want to start by making one thing clear before we go any further. You don't have to believe in telepathy to investigate it honestly. You just have to be willing to follow the evidence wherever it goes. Here's something the skeptics rarely mention. There is more than a century of controlled laboratory research on telepathy, and the results are not what you've been told. The most rigorous modern paradigm is called the Ganzfeld experiment. The setup is elegant in its simplicity. A receiver enters a mild state of sensory reduction, eyes covered with halved ping-pong balls, white noise in the headphones, and rests into a receptive state of open attention. Meanwhile, in a separate room, a sender concentrates on a randomly selected image. At the end of the session, the receiver is shown 4 images and asked to identify which one matches their impressions. By chance, you'd expect a 25% hit rate across dozens of independent laboratories and thousands of trials. The cumulative hit rate is approximately 32 to 35%, consistently, reproducibly across researchers who often set out to debunk the finding. That might not sound dramatic. It isn't 70%, it isn't 100%, but it is statistically significant to an extraordinary degree. In a 1994 meta-analysis published in the journal Psychological Bulletin, researchers Daryl Bem and Charles Honorton estimated the odds against the cumulative Ganzfeld results occurring by chance at greater than 1 trillion to 1. And the Ganzfeld is only one program. The Maimonides dream telepathy studies of the 1960s and 1970s used polysomnographic sleep monitoring to document correspondences between dream content and randomly selected art images, independently judged, replicated across 8 experimental series. Rupert Sheldrake's telephone telepathy research, conducted across thousands of trials, found hit rates of 40 to 45% when participants tried to identify callers before picking up the phone, with the strongest results consistently occurring between people with deep emotional bonds. The evidence is real, it is substantial, and it has survived serious scrutiny. The honest question is not whether something is happening, it's what it means and what it says about the nature of consciousness itself. Now here's the reframe that I think matters most, and it's one of the central questions this module asks you to sit with. Is telepathy a rare power that a few unusual people possess? Or is it a natural capacity of consciousness? Or is it a natural capacity of consciousness that most of us have simply learned to suppress? The laboratory data points strongly toward the second picture. The Ganzfeld hit rate doesn't cluster around specific gifted individuals. It distributes across ordinary participants. Belief in the possibility of the effect improves performance. Not because believers are fooling themselves, but because receptivity is part of the mechanism. The effect is strongest in dreamlike, relaxed, internally focused states. It's weakest when analytical, critical thinking is running the show. What the research is describing sounds a lot like a signal, a faint one, embedded in noise. The Ganzfeld state, the dreaming mind, deep meditation, these are noise reduction environments. They quiet the ordinary chatter long enough for a quieter channel to become perceptible. If that's true, and the evidence suggests it is, then the conditions under which telepathy appears in the lab are conditions any of us can learn to cultivate. This isn't about being special, it's about becoming quiet enough to hear what's already there. Developing that discernment isn't skepticism, it's precision. We are extraordinarily sophisticated social readers. Human beings routinely pick up on micro-expressions lasting as little as a fraction of a second. Subtle shifts in posture, vocal tone, the rhythm of someone's breathing. Most of that processing happens below conscious awareness. You can feel like you're reading someone's mind when what you're doing is extraordinary unconscious sensory processing. That's not a failure, it's a feature, but it's not the same thing as non-local information transfer. We also project. We attribute our own feelings to others. We remember the hits and forget the misses. We are, all of us, prone to confirmation bias. This module will give you a structured discernment protocol for sorting these 3 levels: ordinary empathy, energetic sensitivity, and genuine non-local perception. It will teach you what genuine telepathic impressions tend to feel like, their quality of unexpectedness, their specificity, the way they often arrive as image or emotional tone rather than verbal statement. Developing that discernment isn't skepticism, it's precision. And precision is what allows you to recognize the real thing when it arrives. Your practices for these 2 weeks are among the most experientially rich. You'll conduct a Ganzfeld-style telepathy experiment with a partner. A real experiment with real controls that you design, run, and evaluate yourself. You'll run a 2-week dream telepathy protocol with a partner sending and you receiving across the boundary of sleep. You'll practice empathic tuning, sitting across from someone in deliberate, silent attention and mapping what arrives. And you'll keep a telephone anticipation log, a simple 2-week personal dataset that will tell you more about your own intuitive hit rate than a decade of informal observation. One principle applies to all of them. The quality of your attention to what does not happen is as important as your attention to what does. The misses are as informative as the hits. That's not a consolation. That's the whole point. The territory we're mapping in this module is one of the oldest questions in the study of mind. Can one consciousness reach another? After everything I've studied, after everything the research has shown, my honest answer is, the evidence says yes. Quietly, intermittently, under the right conditions, and the implications of that answer are worth your full attention. Show up for this one. Do the practices before you read the theory. Take your journal seriously, and bring the same honest attention to your failures as to your successes. Both are data. Every outcome, success or failure, provides essential information for the great work. The great work is here. The great work is now. And the great work is you.